I'd like to call the town board meeting of the town of Lake Mills to order. It is December 12th, 2017, 8 p.m. here at the town hall. The first order of business is a call to order. The notice was posted at the town hall, the North End Boat Launch, and the cul-de-sac on Finch Brothers Road, and also on the town's website. Item 2 on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda as published, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. The agenda is adopted. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes from the November 14th public hearing. Should we do that first and then on to the special meeting of the electors? All right,
I'll make that motion.
to approve the public hearing of November 14th, 2017. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the public hearing? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the November 14th public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. The minutes are approved as published. Same with the special meeting of the electors held the same night, November 14th, 2017. I will motion to approve the special meeting of the elector minutes.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the minutes from this meeting? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the minutes from the special meeting of the electors on November 14th, 2017, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Special meeting minutes are approved. Also included the monthly board meeting minutes of that night, which began at 8 p.m. I would motion to approve the monthly board meeting minutes.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes as published from the regular town board meeting of November 14th, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Minutes are approved as published. Thank you, Sarah. I think you did a really good job of accurately recording what went down that evening. Thank you. On to item 4, approval of the treasurer's report. Sharon. Thanks. We're going to talk a little bit more about your job later on in the meeting. I have no questions about the December treasurer's report. Do you, any of you guys?
Nope. I make a motion to approve the December's treasurer's report.
And I'll second that. Is there any discussion on the treasurer's report? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the December 17th treasurer's report, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign. Thank you, Sharon. It's a couple busy months for you coming up. Thank you. We appreciate your help, and I see you're still turning in dog licenses. Okay.
That's 2017, yeah. New ones.
Item 5, approval of the general funding vouchers.
I'll make a motion to approve December's disbursements of $176,159.24.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the disbursements? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the December 12th, 2017 disbursements, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. Thank you. The general funding vouching is approved as published. On to item 6, reports. The police report. Matt.
In the month of November, we had 76 hours of road patrol, handled 7 calls for service. I had a total of 48 traffic stops, issued 38 traffic warnings, issued 32 traffic citations, spent 29 hours of stationary radar. They did 32 residence and business checks at night and conducted 32 park checks also, and then monitored 5 extra patrols for traffic monitoring. Other than that, the new SWAT car is decaled, currently at Floods in Sullivan, or 1033 in Sullivan, and it's being equipped with the new lights and gear. I anticipate the end of the month the new squad being on the road.
Great, Matt. Thanks. You guys have any questions for Matt?
Did you take a look at the tires, Matt? But due to the four-wheel drive, it's gonna be the same tires? Or are you gonna do winter, summer?
I don't know that. When I talked to the dealership, they said we don't have to have 2 sets, but we do have a second set, and I don't know if that set will fit the truck or not. I'm gonna have to talk to Jane L. Tire, and I haven't done that yet, because we do have 2 sets left.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Anything else, Matt?
That's it.
Appreciate your help. Item B, Joint Rock Lake Committee report. There's no one here from the Joint Rock Lake Committee. You are excused, sir. Please go to work at 2:30 in the morning. Hearing nothing from the Joint Rock Lake Committee, on to item C, the Planning Commission report.
Yeah, we met on December 5th, last Tuesday, and the only thing on that agenda that was discussed was an update from Daybreak Foods on their site development. And I think it was a good meeting, and that was it. So, nothing else to add.
Okay, thank you, Lee. Any other committee reports? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 7. This is a period of public comment and questions. This is for anything on the agenda that is up for discussion tonight, only for discussion purposes. Anything that is on the agenda later on, you may comment at that time. We'll go through the rules when we get there. So if there's anyone who would like to make a public comment or ask a question of the board, now is the time. And if you would like to, would you please come to the podium, tell us who you are and what your question or comment is.
My name is Brent Johnson, and I just have a comment. I talked to someone up in Madison today about the dead animal odor and health issues from the composting of chickens at Daybreak Foods. And he said, let me point you in the right direction. He said, if you live out there, make yourself familiar with cadaverine exposure. And that's highly toxic, and that comes from composting of dead animals and letting them pile up. And I think I just got this late today. I haven't read it all. There's also putrescine, and that's given off by piling up dead animals. And from what I'm reading, don't breathe it in. Don't get it on your skin. If there's people out there working with dead animals, man, they got to have protective stuff on. There's really a big health concern with that.
And who did you speak to, Brent?
I talked to a fella at the DNR. Oh, maybe I dropped that book with his name in it. No, I got it here. His name was Jeff Myers. And he said I should probably be talking to David Panofsky. He's the waste management DNR person. He's probably the one that's doing the permit. He said familiarize yourself with Code 4903. That has a lot to do with being a public health nuisance. And then he gave me the number of the air permit chief, Barb, and I don't know her last name, but I got her phone number up there also. And I think maybe we need to put something in the Lake Mills Leader about people better be studying up on these dead animals out there that we're smelling, because it's really toxic. And I'm taking it in the face. My eyes water constantly. I've been pounded by it all summer. I'm having a hard time breathing. It's a respiratory thing. And we got some health concerns that no one's addressing. And I think they're trying to slide this under the rug. How can they not know this?
Appreciate your comments. Go ahead.
I'm Tori Smith. I live over in the north end of the lake on Highway B. I just had 2 really quick things I wanted to bring up. Last meeting I heard it was discussed about the Rock Lake Road potentially getting done when the overpass or whatever gets done in 2019, I believe. I've lived over there now for a couple of years. My grandparents lived in those condos there, so I'm very familiar with that area. I've been there most of my life, the park up on the top of the hill, things like that. I guess my only concern or question is has it been taken into consideration, or can it be taken into consideration, the amount of walking and bike traffic that goes down there when this project gets done? Ever since I was little, I remember there being people walking down that roads and cars come flying down Rock Lake Road towards B. I mean, that's the speeding issue, I guess, is one thing, but just the space issue on the side of the road for bicycles, for walkers, for things like that, especially with that park being up there. I feel like it's always been an issue, and maybe it can be something that's considered when this project is done. Secondly is another construction thing. I had asked actually about this a couple months back. I just wanted to kind of follow up quick. The Highway A overpass. Do you have any information on that, or is any information going to be shared? I know I think there's a small amount of township right on that intersection. I'm not sure how much that really affects you guys, but I'm wondering when they do that project, because I believe that overpass is getting done too, is that something that the township will keep us updated on, or is the city of Lake Mills the best avenue to get information on that project for?
That's a really good question.
I know I had talked the one time when they came in from the DOT, I think, and discussed that, but I think they only discussed the Newville Road or whatever those two are over there. They didn't discuss A or Q
I
at
have the
all.
plans up here.
So,
They just discussed with us when they were 30 or 40% into the design.
okay.
The DOT had a public meeting here, and that was just on the Newville Road and the Rock Lake Road.
Yeah, yeah.
I did not attend the meetings on the next 2 or 3 over underpasses. I believe they were all hosted at the community building here in Lake
At
Mills.
the city, okay.
And I don't know what involvement we would have. We do have several properties, the trailer park
Yeah,
and
along
the
there.
Locker Building and Fayetteville Road. Part of Fayetteville Road is still in the town's jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have some concern for us. I don't know if that's scheduled in 19 as the other 2 bridges. Do you guys know?
No.
I don't know.
I know they're alternating Q and A, whatever years they're doing those, because they're going to be doing Q as well, and they said they're not doing them at the same time. But I've had a hard time getting information about that specific one, A, and I didn't know if it was something that the township would really be involved in.
Well, I'll tell you what, I have the contact information for the engineer. I can certainly ask him that question. And as to your other question, Rock Lake Road came up, and it is on our 5-year road plan. And part of what I've discussed in the narrative as I'm writing this grant for discretionary funds is the amount of bike and walking traffic. Kind of what we would be looking at if we were to receive this grant is to work with the engineers that are working on the 2 overpasses, because they've done an extensive amount of engineering work on those areas, hopefully to borrow some of the information that they already have. I was looking at the bike maps. I'm not exactly sure if Rock Lake Road is designated in the Jefferson County bike map.
Okay.
I'm going to work with the county highway department on this on Thursday morning, but it certainly is an issue that all of those roads, Newville and Rock Lake Road, are heavily used for biking and walking. When we do a pulverize and mill like this, we would not be doing a total reconstruction. Maybe you were familiar with the total reconstruction that we proposed through grant money for London Road. That had a 4-foot shoulder, which was designated as a bike or a pedestrian lane. There was a lot of pushback in the neighborhood to that. And what we ended up with there is, I believe, 2 10-foot lanes, so 20 foot of paved road with 2-foot shoulders. And that's probably what we would be looking at on Rock Lake Road.
Gotcha.
Right there at that intersection is what I'm actually targeting as what we would like to do because of that configuration where it goes, they call that a pork chop. That's in my grant plan to straighten that out so that there would be a straight-on approach to County Highway B. Whether we get that grant or not is another story.
Gotcha.
The town of Waterloo is looking at writing a grant that would mirror ours so that we could complete the entire length of Rock Lake Road with a pulverize and repave. But I do recognize the fact that there are other uses, and I think as we go into the future, those other uses may become even more important.
Especially with the being the
I
county
don't
park.
really know. I couldn't tell from the maps that I was pulling up that the DOT had if Rock Lake Road isn't really deemed a bike route, because there are designated bike routes. So I'll be getting that together. In the future, Tori, could you give us an email address or something so that I could get back to you on what the County A situation is before you leave tonight?
Yep.
Just leave us a slip of paper or something, okay? I think that would be helpful. I appreciate that you stay tuned because sometimes it feels like kind of working alone here on these roads. I'm going to meet on, like I said, on Thursday morning. There's a committee meeting of different town chairs. We will be looking at the countywide proposals and working with the county highway department in getting those proposals put together. They will go out then to the state for review sometime in January, and we should know before the construction season starts if we would be receiving any money for those projects. If not, I don't really know where that project is going. Maybe we as a town can accomplish just the portion of the road from County Highway B to the bridge. I don't know. Depends on what we're going to do. It looks like it may be in the $300,000 range. So
I had heard something too about that space. It's almost across, it's before you get to the park that goes up the hill, but across from that empty, the county shed or whatever that's there, that the condo association is looking at selling that last little chunk there. There used to be a hole down there and potentially putting more condos up there. It went out to my grandparents, a letter at the condo association there. So just another thing to think of with traffic, I don't know.
sir, more traffic.
Yeah.
It is kind of a clunky intersection, so that would be my goal there, but we'll see how this all shakes out as we apply. But I appreciate you staying tuned and asking those questions, so leave us an email address. Does anyone else have a comment or question they'd like to bring forward? I'm sure we'll hear from you later in the meeting, you guys. Glad you're here, thank you. Moving on, item 8, review of applications filed. A is a discussion and decision on an application for an operator's license for Samantha J. Garcia to serve at the Krogville Oasis. Matt has left us with the paperwork on this. Looks like he checked on her license and that everything seems to be in order. So I would motion that we approve a license for Samantha J. Garcia for the Krogville Oasis.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving this operator's license, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, the same sign. Samantha has been granted an operator's license. Item B, discussion and decision on an application for a special event by the Lake Mills Main Street program for the Knickerbocker Ice Festival on Saturday, February 3rd, 2018. Seeing that I serve in many capacities in our community, I am the chairman of the Knickerbocker Ice Festival. And we request permission to use the lake and the areas around the lake for our annual events. Lots of activities in town, but also the Main Street Committee sponsors an ice fishing tournament on Rock Lake and ice golf off of Bartles Beach on Rock Lake. And so we asked for permission to use the lake and for some police and security support on that day.
And I will make a motion to approve the special events for the Knickerbocker Main Street program, February 3rd, 2018, with the exception that they get their certificate of insurance in.
Okay.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Is there going to be ice?
That is like looking in a mirror. I don't know. Looks like it tonight, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Feels like it.
All right, I'll ask Katie to forward that certificate of insurance. All in favor of approving the special event application, please say aye.
All right.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The application is approved. I got a list. All right, on to old business, item number 9. A, discussion and decision on amendments to Town Ordinance 5-6, regulating piers on Rock Lake.
Copy of that for all.
Oh, that's nice that he said that. Okay. So, last meeting of the Joint Rock Lake Committee, there was still some discussion about the proposed ordinance needing some help for more legal review. So I have gone forward and asked my old friend and longtime advising attorney for lake things, Bill O'Connor, for a quote from the Wheeler Van Sickle and Anderson law firm. He has sent me a document. I have not read it to this point.
There's copies for all three of
Oh,
you.
sorry, guys. What I would propose that we do have the draft ordinance in pretty good shape. What I would propose that we do is forward this on to Bill and to his colleague Mary Beth for some work on bringing the ordinance up to snuff so that we can get it on our agenda in the early part of 2018. I guess I would feel comfortable. Bill has quoted me a rate of $300 an hour. I don't know if you guys were privy to the rates that were forwarded from Mark Sewell. You saw those.
Yeah.
I really think we need some specialized help for this thing. I guess what I would like to see us do is go forward and set a not-to-exceed amount, have Bill review this over the next 6 weeks, and hopefully come back and be able to throw this thing on the agenda and make it happen.
Think you can do it in 2 hours?
Yeah, I do. I think not to exceed maybe $1,000 would be pertinent here. We have plenty of money in our joint Rock Lake, or in our Rock Lake account.
Yeah,
to
that'll
handle
apply
this.
to that account.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think that would be the way to go. Give him a budget and say, this is what we want, and what can we get for a couple hours of review time.
Sure.
Make sense?
Yep.
All right, I would make a motion to approve the expenditure of up to $1,000 for Wheeler Van Sickle and Anderson firm to review the ordinance 5-6 regulating piers on Rock Lake.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, the same sign. I'll work with him and make sure that he is prudent in his activities. Item B, discussion and decision on an intergovernmental agreement with the Cambridge Fire and EMS.
Our meeting is tomorrow night, 6:30. So I'm sure the draft will be there.
All right. And once you get that, Dave, do you think that you could forward that to Sarah so she can distribute it to us?
Yeah, I can, because originally when we first started looking at this, there was, I believe it was about 3 months ago, and we needed to get it done by the first of the year so that we can possibly enroll into the state retirement fund. But I don't know where that's at either. We'll find it out tomorrow night, but I will do that.
If there's anything we need to do before the end of the year, I guess it would be nice to know.
Yep,
All right,
I'll let you know.
go forward. Thank you, David, for serving in that
6:30
capacity.
tomorrow night if you're interested.
I saw their agenda. C, discussion and decision on a building inspection contract with Safe Built. You guys have this in your packet? We entertained a little of the discussion last month.
I got this email from Steve on Monday.
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
Oh, I think you should read it.
okay. He was reminded of whether we want our free, in quotations, assistance to obtain our commercial plan review delegated authority from the state of Wisconsin. He says, we've worked with over 20 Wisconsin munis this year to get this authority, yielding several key advantages. 1, more local control over future development projects. 2, a totally new revenue stream for the town as SafeBuilt does all future plan review work on our behalf on a percent fee basis. And 3, by obtaining your own delegated agent authority and partnering with SafeBuilt, you can reduce your project review turnaround times from upwards of 8 weeks down to 3 to 5 days, guaranteed. As we've separated out a totally focused team of licensed and certified professional engineers and architects in Wisconsin under a new operations manager, D.A. Maddox, to do these reviews 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. Doesn't say how much it costs. It says
No,
free,
it's
but it's
free.
in quotes, so it's not really.
Done deal.
Yeah. So I did reply back to him and said, please tell us what it would take for you to become our agent. Do you understand what that means?
I think so, yeah.
I think I do too. You guys?
Do you think we're gonna have more, well, who knows?
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, we don't know. If there is anything that has state approval, then they would be the ones to handle it, and doesn't seem like anything's getting any less simple.
Yeah,
So, I guess we'll pursue that and wait to hear. I did ask him today for some help with a raising ordinance. I really feel like we need to be working on a raising ordinance. So I asked him, when Sarah and I met with him, he offered us a great deal of free help. So we'll see how that goes.
well, it probably is structured the same way, from the way it reads, it's structured the same way as the building permits are. They charge a fee and we get 10% and they get 90, right? Something like that.
I'm not looking to that as a huge revenue stream
No,
for the town.
no, not at all. So I chuckled when I read it.
Well, I would motion to approve the building inspection contract with Safe Build.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, all
Aye.
opposed, same sign. Pretty much Safe Built is the group that we've been working with. They just have changed names from Independent Inspections. Safe Built is a much bigger company with a different structure, so I'm glad that we took the time to review it and look at it.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea to send the new fee structure to the builders that tend to do most of the building around here.
That's a good idea.
Okay,
Will you do that?
yes.
All right. So I guess anybody that's probably pulled a permit in the last year or so, we should shuffle through those permits and do
You see
that.
a lot of the same.
The same names.
Names.
Okay, I think it would be good. Our new building inspection fees and permit fees come into play
January 1st.
January 1.
That's also when the new Act 211 compliance happens, which I don't know all the details of, but has something to do with building permits being available for viewing online.
Right. Okay,
But Safe Build is already handling that for us.
all right.
They're up to date on that. I also, when I was looking at pulling that out for copying and putting in packets, I ran across our assessor contract that we never revisited.
Oh.
We put it on hold a couple of months ago and,
So we never went back to it, huh?
no. So need
We
to
better go back
revisit
at
that.
it.
Yeah,
I thought we
because-
approved it.
Yeah, so did I, because that was also included the
just the
2019
reassess?
and 20 revals.
I think that was maybe that was the piece that we didn't go back to.
The reval. Well, we were just talking about putting it into
Next year's,
the budget.
yeah, next 2 year
Okay.
budget.
I'll
Well,
check on it.
let's touch base with him and
Yeah.
make sure we're square.
Okay.
Because that
I need
is
to get
something
a
we're
hold-
gonna have to budget for.
I need to get a
And
hold of
what
it
year were
anyway.
they planning that?
2020.
2020. Oh, it doesn't seem like it's possible for us to talk about 2020. Okay. Anything else?
On this, no.
Okay. Item D, update on Daybreak Foods, Creekwood site development. I'm sure that some of you would like to make comments or have questions about that. Here's what we'll do tonight. We're not going to make any decisions. We will hear whatever comments that you have to say. The Daybreak Foods people asked to be taken off the agenda after the planning meeting last week, seeing that they really had no other facts to bring forward or any other things that they wanted to bring forward at this time. So I would be happy to hear what any of your comments are. I'm not sure that you guys really want to make any comments at this time, but I'm happy to hear what you have to say. So if you have something to say, please come to the podium, tell us your name, where you live, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I'll start it off. Is that okay? Yeah.
Swell.
Somebody's got to be first.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be first. Okay, my name's Tony Beard, and I live out on County Road 8. And I feel like that this whole situation boils down to a few basic facts. The one fact being that Daybreak has to go cage-free for their contract. So if that's true, those barns become obsolete anyway, whether or not they're building a new facility. Also, Dave, you might have some more information on this, that site, those buildings have exceeded their lifespan, and they're to the point where they have to be deconstructed anyway, because they're falling apart. So my perception of this is Daybreak is saying, we can either keep running this the way it is, i.e. you're going to keep smelling it, or we can build this brand new facility down here. When in reality, it's, we can't use this facility anymore for two major reasons. Anyway, we're going to get rid of it, we have to, and we're going to use that as the impetus to sell you on this other idea. So, that being said, that's me making up that that's what they're doing. But they, as other people have attested in the past, they haven't really been a good neighbor. I mean, there's been, a lot of trouble with, the smell, and it's been really bad. And, I mean, just like last week when we were here, they said, well, we don't really know where that smell's coming from. But, it's coming from there. And so, they're being very forthcoming on a lot of issues, and they're really willing to talk design and construction and all of that, but they're not willing to talk about what's happening right now and why it's happening and what are you going to do about this odor and how can we trust you when your track record is really not that good. A lot of times it's not what you say, it's what you do. So what have you been doing forever over here? You've been not really giving a about us, And so I've only been here a short time, but I've experienced it, and there's people in my neighborhood that have respiratory problems, a number of them. And to me, other places I've lived, it's a very high amount, And some of these people are getting close to the point where they're going to be deathly ill from it, from these lung problems. And so, what Brent pointed out, that's a reality. For us living out there, those smells and stuff. And so the trust factor with me and these people is really, really low because of that. And I think everybody else here that is experiencing these problems, that's what it's about. If they were doing a great job over there at this one they've got now and really, making an effort to, be a good neighbor like everybody says, then I think everybody would be completely for them doing this because they know they've got a good track record. But nobody trusts them because of that. And so, in the end, we could definitely be multiplying our problem because, the amount of birds we're talking about is more than double what they have now, all things considered. And so, it's going to be double the problem if they're not really taking care of it, And the thing about the drying to me is I asked them about it. These blowers are going to blow through and dry this on some sort of conveyor, but then that fan exhaust that's blowing is going to blow through all the way through the building, and then it's going to exhaust out without any type of screen or mesh or filter at all. They say they have an electrostatic cleaner. An electrostatic cleaner is like a vent fog precipitator. It actually creates a static field that very small particles that can join with it, with that static field will be eliminated. It's, they basically get burned up in it. But, larger things that are, they'll pass right through. And so, that lack of filtration to me is, where's that going? What's, and like I say, then to me, they haven't really, you ask them about it and they say, well, we don't really know, we're this, we're that. And I just feel like that this is going to be a bigger problem is what I'm saying. It's going to be a bigger problem because, they don't have any examples. Like I asked them, do you have an example of some other state where this system's in use where we can actually see, we can talk to people that live there, we can get kind of a report? Yeah, they're very cagey about it, and they don't want to give out that information. I mean, they did on one plant for some sort of like a storage space or no, it was the pipe over the road. But that was it, and so I think the meat of the questions and what we're asking and what they're saying they want to do, I don't think that, they're really giving us all the information. I think the situation is that they want to convince us that they're going to build this new plant and they're going to make everybody and everything better, and then they're going to get rid of this thing that's been bothering us, and they're doing us a favor to do that. I don't really think that's true. They have to do that. And so the question is, do they have to build here? They've already bought the property. They're already moving forward with that. So it's kind of like, well, where are we with this now? Do we have the power to have the say of them even being here? Probably not, which is what was discussed on the board, that, this is just informational. If they pass their requirements for the state and the county, they're approved, they're in, we have no say. That's, so what we do have control over is maybe how this whole thing goes down and what we are going to ask to require them to do for us, and then follow through with it. And so none of that has really been discussed. We've asked questions about how they're going to do it, and some people have vented their frustrations, but we really haven't got down to, okay, how are all these things going to help us? How are you going to prevent this? Will you do this? They talked about beautifying the trees, but we all know the number one problem, the main problem, why everybody's here is because of the odor. And that's what we need to address. We need to, put that under a microscope and say, how are you going to fix this? Put that up on the board and follow it step by step and give us that information, and then, let us go and look at that somewhere else and decide that that's good and then agree on it, and then we're all happy because they're doing something, That's not what we're talking about. That's what we need to talk about with them. And so I'm disappointed that they're not here tonight, because that's what I was going to say to them, is let's get to that. And so hopefully we'll have another meeting where they'll be here and we can do that. And I really feel like that's how we move forward. That's how we fix this problem. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tony.
Part of what you said, Tony, is true. If Ag Sightings does approve it and the DNR, there's not a lot we can say about that, but with everybody's comments that you have here, we do have a say in the conditions that go on their conditional use permit. So we only can think the way we think, so all the comments that you guys come up with is, food for thought. So we do have one option anyway, so.
Dave, they were last week telling us about the humidity this fall and how humid it was. They couldn't control the smell when the humidity was low this fall. And they keep telling that was the problem with the wet manure. And they're counting it up our ass because wet manure can be solved by diet of how you feed your chickens. And they don't have to give those chickens a good diet because they're breaking the eggs and they don't need a good shell on them. They're always going to have runny manure. It isn't going to have anything to do with the weather. It's the diet of the chicken.
I agree, Brent. It's a high-fat diet, high meat scrap.
And what this guy told me in Madison today. Do I got to put my employees out in the field in protective suits with respirators to keep them from breathing this stuff in? I had to send them home this fall. We had 2 weeks of 90-degree weather. My squash products burnt out in the field from sunburn. I lost about 20% of it. I had to plow under because I couldn't get anybody to go out there and pick it. I sent them home. I was concerned with their health. I wasn't going to be a jerk and go, man, screw your health, get my squash in the barn. I'm not their kind of guy.
Right.
Mike Ellison, I live on County 8, about half mile from the facility. There's really not much to say beyond what Tony said without muddying the waters further, but we are your constituents, and I think your vote, you are going to have a vote, and I think the county at some level is going to see that. Maybe they'll take it as advisory, and I think that we are imploring you to take that and us and our thoughts and concerns with this facility under advisement.
Anybody else would like to speak?
My name is David Kuykendall. I live about a quarter mile on Highway A from Daybreak Foods. This month marks the 10th anniversary since I've lived there, and this has been an issue ever since I've lived there. They have made promises and never kept them, apparently, because nothing has changed. This morning we had to put our dog down, and he apparently was a victim of lung cancer. Now, he was a non-smoker, lived in a non-smoking home, but he did have to breathe Daybreak Food air for 9 years. Based on what Brent has said, I would make a ridiculous statement that Daybreak Foods is responsible for his death, but based on what Brett says, maybe that's not ridiculous. At any rate, I'm sure Daybreak Foods is saying that what the air they're putting out is healthy. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't know if I believe that. Like I said, they've made promises in the past and nothing's changed. So maybe all of us that live around there are in danger of our health. I think this ought to be looked into.
Thank you.
Can I add on to my statement just a little bit? I think
Certainly.
there's two issues. Is that what I was talking about, getting more specific about the construction, but I feel like David, said something that I hadn't really considered was possible, is as a township looking into what's going on right now and what the risks are right now. And from this facility, it's going to be there for 2 more years, they say. And that was kind of what some of my question was last week, is what are you doing right now to help us out right this minute from now until, your new facility is built? And are we going to suffer from that? Is that going to cause us bodily harm? I feel like that's something that we should be able to find out. We should know as a town. So, just.
Thank you,
My
Tony.
name is Sherry Hellickson. I live on County Road A with my husband. This is so frustrating. I think a lot of people around town in the remote area didn't know about these meetings. I've talked to a few neighbors and everybody's very frustrated. The smell has gotten worse the past 3 weeks. My parents are here from Tennessee and there was a very putrid smell. I decided to go with my mother, which was a big mistake, and drive past, and she had an asthma attack in the car from it. And these people from Daybreak are telling us that, oh, it's not them or whatever. And we've got 2 children, and I'm honestly worried about our health. They don't know what it's like to be on, I guess we probably all call it lockdown, right? When the smell gets so bad, we can't even open up our windows to enjoy the weather or our home that we pay for, that we work really hard for. I think that we pay our taxes like everybody else does, and we shouldn't have to be going through this as a community. My husband and I moved out here and we're like, wow, the country's great, but it shouldn't be like this. And it's sad when there are these people, and to me, with them talking and stuff, it just seems like they mention jobs and jobs. Oh, it's all about the jobs. Well, what about the people's health? Doesn't that matter? I was driving around today for a little while, and if they want to focus on the job part of it, there's plenty of places out here, especially in the industrial area, where there's a lot of jobs. So it just seems like, to me, that they're just making a runaround and making this look like, oh, it's don't worry about it, we bought the property, we're going to do what we're going to do, suck it up, and that's it. And it's just not supposed to be this way. Lake Mills is supposed to be a great area. You go downtown and, people talk about it. I ran across somebody the other day and they said, well, yeah, I was going to have one of my friends over and we were all going to go out shopping in Lake Mills, and the response was, well, I'm not going to Lake Mills, that place stinks. How horrible. To live in a community you're supposed to be proud of. It's not supposed to be like this. I like nature. I like to go hunt. There's times where I was out there too and I was gagging, and I was like, well, how long am I going to sit in my tree stand before? The smell was so putrid. You like I said, you move here, you pay your taxes and stuff, and so does everybody else, but why should we have to go through this? And we even mentioned to them, well, what about, oh yeah, it's not that bad, it's not that bad. Well, then you know what? Then come build over here and be my neighbor and see what it's like and smell it. Because there's times where it literally makes you gag and you can't go outside and enjoy your own property. you know, and I don't want to have to worry about my children's health. Mine, okay, fine, if I keel over and die, whatever, but what about my children? You know, that's the next generation. So, yeah, our property taxes and especially the value of our homes, what's going to happen then to that? We work our whole lives, don't we, for what we have? You know, we're hardworking people. You know, they don't look at that though. You know, they just look at the profit side of it. And they sugarcoat everything like Tony, right? Like what Tony was saying. You know, it's just not right. So I hope that you guys think about it. You know, if you guys were out there about your families and stuff and how hard you work and everything and what Lake Mills really is to you guys and what it means to you. And if you were in our positions, how would you guys feel? We're fighting for our homes is what we're doing. We're fighting for our health. Because I think our health is more important than anything. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sherry, for your comments. I'm sure that the Daybreak people are listening and will be listening. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Connie Johnson, and we live right across from Creekwood. I've heard this brought up before at other meetings about the jobs, and they've cut the jobs over there because they went from putting eggs in cases, selling them whole, to the liquid eggs. And there's less people working there now since they've taken over. And another phrase I've heard is cage-free, and everybody thinks, oh, good for those chickens. It's not free range, it's cage-free. In essence, what they're doing is putting them in a bigger area all smushed together. So, you know, that's not really a wonderful thing either, but that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to the board? Okay. I just have a couple of comments. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to say, Lee, but I guess for some reason you people feel that have spoken that we are not experiencing the same thing that you are. But of course, as property owners in the town of Lake Mills, we are experiencing the same thing that you are. We are simply your elected officials. The second thing I'd like to say is, what decision do you really think the town board of Lake Mills has in this? And I will say this to you. My first concerns in my job are public safety, which includes roadways and health issues. Those are concerns that directly face me every day in managing what goes on in the town of Lake Mills. Safety, health. The hardest things for us to deal with on the town board are nuisances. And the nuisances are dust, odors, traffic, all of the things that you've mentioned. These are very difficult things to deal with on the back side. So we want to be proactive and deal with them on the front side. The other thing I'd like to say tonight is I thought that it was very loud and clear last week at the Planning Commission meeting. Maybe some of you weren't here. That was not on tape, but there are minutes of that meeting. I thought it was very clear that there is a difference in the issues between the odor management on the manure and the odor management when it comes to the mortality of the chickens. And I think that came through very loud and clear to the Daybreak folks. I happened to follow them home. I thought it was quite laughable. The wind was blowing from the north at about 30 miles an hour. And they are driving down County Highway A with their windows open, wondering what they're going to smell. Well, they probably should have been on Hope Lake Road instead of County Highway A. The weather is the most dependent thing upon the corridor of those odors. So I don't think they really are truly aware of what goes on. I'm not accusing them of that, but I thought that was pretty telling of what goes on. Rick did make comments to me as he left the town hall about how he would like to make some changes immediately so that he could demonstrate. And I agree with you, Tony, and I think everyone here in the room will agree that their reputation as a corporation and the promises that they have made before have not been followed through on, and they know that. And I've talked to them about their publicity campaign and how hard they are going to have to work to regain the trust of the citizens of Lake Mills. But I don't know what you really think the town board's powers are in livestock sighting. And like Dave said, when we see the permits come through and we see the conditions that we may need to put upon these people to make them toe the line, so to speak, that's when the town board will be making decisions. But the state will be making the livestock sighting decisions, and the county will be making those decisions. We have been disempowered as a local form of government by the legislature of the state of Wisconsin in livestock sighting. That's my opinion. So I think there are some issues that we can tackle as we go forward, but I don't want you to think that we are not your neighbors and that we are not experiencing the exact same things that you are. There is one thing that we will be making a decision on, and I clearly stated that the other night. We will be asked to permit or allow this conveyor that will go over the road and also the pipeline that will go under the road. Those are things that will cross the town's right-of-way, and we will be granting permission for that. And those are the opinions that I want to hear from the people who live there. I don't live on Crossman Road. You don't live on Crossman Road. You don't live on Crossman Road. But the people who live on Crossman Road should have a right to understand what might happen by the action of the town board. And we are your elected officials.
Well, I live on Crossman Road, and I would have a huge issue with it. Huge conveyor belt. I mean, just property value alone. I mean, who wants to see that ugly thing every single day?
That's your
and the
opinion.
noise.
Those are the issues I was talking
I'm not
about.
going to be able to keep my windows open ever. I mean, we don't anyways because it breaks.
They did make promises to us last week at our planning meeting that they would come with decibel levels, and so.
Right, but you know, you're there for the peace and quiet, not for 5 a.m. that thing to kick on and start shooting, you know,
Okay,
feet
well,
across the.
we have to, this will remain to be seen. But I certainly want you to know that we're listening to you. I just don't know how effective we're going to be in the whole process.
I'd like to ask two questions based on your statement, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
The first one is, what has the town board of Lake Mills been doing about the problem that has existed for many years? What steps have you tried to take in order to remedy the problem? And do you have the power to issue them a citation? Do you have the power to, what's your relationship with them? Have they made promises to the board and then not kept them? Have you been, pursuing this on a regular basis, or is it something that's just kind of been accepted because of everything that's happened? And if that's the case, then okay, fine, but we need to kind of pick up the sword now. And like Dave said, does the town board actually have the power to modify this conditional license based on requirements that the community would have once we understand what the process is, and that we want to make sure that safeguards basically are in place to prevent anything from happening like that in the future? Have some sort of outside evaluation of their plan, their building, their structure, and what that outside person's opinion is of eliminating odors, and do we do that? Is that within our purview? Should we do that? Can we afford to do that? Do we want to do that? I think that those are all a yes, And so I just feel like there's things the board can do. There's a lot of things the board can do. And I'm not trying to say, you're not doing it or anything, but I feel like that, this relationship with Creekwood and the town of Lake Mills has been going on so long that it's kind of settled into this relationship of, what is and what ain't. Because they've been doing it for so long, and there's nothing really happening there, and And I don't think that, I mean, I haven't heard anything about, well, the town board last year visited the site and they showed us that they were going to fix this and fix that, or this is what this problem is, and somebody's kind of keeping up on that. Somebody's advocating for the town and being over there and in their space, I mean, those are all things that we can do, and those are things that could help. And so when you say the board doesn't have that much power, I think you have an incredible amount of power when it comes to that. And I think it just needs to be utilized. And I think there's a lot of people here that would say if you need manpower to make some of that stuff happen, there's volunteers pouring out of the woodwork here.
And what are we going to do?
Does anybody know if they're bringing dead birds from the Waterloo facility over to Lake Mills? They're composting them over there too? These guys talk about this they call this the smell of death, molecules from the crypt. Shouldn't this be stopped immediately?
I mean, how do you
if
detect
it's
that?
killing us, shouldn't that be shut down?
I think you're
now?
asking questions that should be answered by a state agency. I think you're asking the wrong questions.
I mean, do we
No, just
propose
ask
that
for your opinion.
to the state and say, we need your help? We don't know how to do this?
I think that's exactly what Anita Martin and her group have been doing over the last 2.5 or 3 years. I think if anyone deserves any credit for monitoring what's gone on, it's Anita and her group.
And so
Who's that?
what do we have, what information do we have from her, and what progress is being made, and is
Why
the
don't
state
you
aware
contact
of
her?
it?
I think she has a website. What is the name of her group?
Citizens for a Better Environment, I
Yeah,
believe.
something like that.
And she doesn't work in conjunction with the board here for,
No, she's a private citizen.
Did she shut down drying the manure and pelletizing it, or didn't she?
I don't know that.
Contract just run out.
I don't know that.
Okay.
so can we, maybe, I mean, how do we move forward on this idea of, if this is even an idea we want to move
You know
forward
what I
about
think
really
that
evaluating
you
it?
as a group should do is go over what I read about in the last month is the livestock sighting rules for the state of Wisconsin. And I think you should contact Anita. I think that you should reach out and pull your neighbors together if that is your desire, and try to come up with some solutions. Work directly one-on-one with Daybreak on what they might be doing now to correct the problems that they
I feel
have.
like you're giving me a task and sending me away. Is the board involved with that at all? Are we going to get support from the town board for that?
The only activities the town board has had, as far as I know, and I was not on the board at that time, was the approval of the original, the last time they came for a DNR or a air quality permit. They have to come through the town board or for their livestock sighting. But I was not on the board at that time. Complaints, come through all the time. Anita's the one who organized a call-in number for air quality complaints.
Odor Action Line.
Yeah, and she would know much more about that.
I'm trying to pull up her email address, but I can find it.
The other thing is, not to interrupt you, but the Land Conservation Office is going to be a real good place to start, because the zoning board and the county board of supervisors are, the Land Conservation Office is advisory to those guys. But
To what guys?
to the county board supervisors
Okay.
and the zoning office. The zoning office is like I said, they are advisory to them. They are not going to make a move on any decisions when it comes to any type of egg sightings, whether it's a dairy or poultry, whatever, without the instructions and the guidelines from the Land Conservation Office. So my suggestion would be, you could talk with those folks over there. The only thing you're going to really bump your head against the wall is private information until it becomes public. So, how far does it go into the egg sightings before it comes public? I can't answer that for you. But that's a place to start.
Is that right in the same building as the FSA office?
No, this is in the courthouse.
Okay.
So let me ask you a few questions. they bought the property, they're gonna build the facility. Is it your opinion that they're gonna get their permits and this is gonna go through? That's a fact. Can we?
I think that's what their hope is, yeah. I think, you know.
Do you think we
I don't
got
know.
a crystal ball?
Well, no, but
Yeah.
when,
Just your
you know,
opinion.
there's been discussion in
Yeah,
other meetings
it's-
about
yeah.
how that's how the process goes, and this is just informational, so I'm just trying to get a clear idea of, we're not gonna be able to stop them building this facility. That's probably a reality.
That could be a possibility. The other thing I think is, they have, you know, the WPDS permit and also a conditional use permit. And I think that they, as being Daybreak Foods, possibly could have been under the impression that when they bought new property, they could just take that permit with them. But that really is not the case, because that kind of stays with that property right there, not the new property. And that's what this is all about right here.
Okay.
So,
So what stipulations can the town board make on a conditional use permit? What power do you have to modify it or accept or reject it, or what
the
is
sky is
that?
the limit, from business hours to lighting to whatever you want to make it.
So then instead of
That's
talking about
obviously.
not having the facility, we should be talking about what we can do, what we can request them to do in order to make the situation better.
Right, and like Hope said, you're better off getting it going in than after the fact. And I know my biggest concern is you can have the best laid plans, but what was Plan B?
And
What
who's
if A-
managing it?
What happens if A didn't work? And that's the other thing too is Brent, if you were managing it, are you gonna be there forever? You know?
Yeah, they
Is
go
it-
through, this guy that they got from, where'd he come from, Cargill, this Bobby? He
Yeah.
could be gone next year. I mean, Lauren Ash is gone, this guy, those big guys, when you work in companies like that, they shuffle through those guys every couple of years. So
And the
whatever
promises
he
go with it.
promises is only as good as he's there, you know?
So I feel like that, you know, identifying exactly how they're gonna eliminate this odor, and if, you know, I mean, they haven't really been very clear. They've talked about how much drier it's gonna be, but what if the conveyor breaks down, you know, or,
Don't you agree with me that there are two separate odors?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think there's three.
I think there's three.
There's the wastewater when that's not managed, there's the manure, and there's these dead birds.
Okay,
And they call
remember
it
your
the-
points.
the smell
You
of
can
death.
bring these points right up to those people.
Okay, yeah, and some sort of, you know, that static, that last electrostatic filter system is not, that's very concerning to me as far as completely eliminating particulate and odors. So something we can look at maybe, hopefully, with them, ask them about it.
Sarah has put this in front of me. She has,
They passed these out, or handed me a bunch of them, when they were here doing that presentation. But I thought it was interesting, it's got the Citizens for a Better Environment at the bottom of it. This is all from Creekwood, but it's got a bunch of, the construction expansion will need to receive a state water pollution permit, and here's where to be updated about that, as an email or a website address. And then public notice postings, 30-day public comment period will occur at this website, so you can have that. And
Great,
that's a good place to start anyway.
okay, thank you. Well, I'll get it when we're done.
yeah. Anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Go ahead.
Well, it's just that now that Walker and his tribe has eliminated most of the environmental protection rules the state used to have, in conjunction with almost completely castrating the DNR, it makes it seem like we don't have a lot to work with.
Fella that I talked to today, he said, get familiar with, what did he say, and I didn't look at it because it was late, Code 4903. He doesn't know how long it's going to be on the books, but he said that has a lot to do with being a public nuisance, and that's a good place to start. And there are actually numbers on how many, if you get 60% of the population to agree they're a nuisance, you could possibly shut them down. But he said, I can't tell you how long that baby's going to be on the books.
So if you could bring a little more of that information back home to me, that would be great. Brent, you know, phone numbers and people and websites. I can look up code 4903. I'm learning just as you are. Anybody else want to make a comment?
if you had mentioned that they didn't know how bad the smell is, isn't it their responsibility if people are complaining to find out right away how bad the smell is? We've asked people to come out on days when it's so dreadful, and nobody will come. Nobody wants to come and eat lunch at our picnic table.
I will, I'm already in it.
Well, I'm not going to have a vomitorium in my
Mr. Miller come out one day this fall, because I called Jefferson County, and he goes, man, I don't know how you're
Who's
living.
Mr. Miller?
I think your time I see the best.
All
I had a
right,
few minutes the other day and I just did a quick little Google search, just trying to start to get educated on this stuff. And they have, North Carolina apparently has a large chicken farm population. There's these things in England. And apparently a lot of these places can live harmoniously. There's technologies out there that, between venting out the roof and using double or triple stage incinerators and all these types of, technologies, that these things can exist and not bother the neighbors. I don't know that for certain. I'm just saying it. Then you read this or look at this presentation last week, and none of these newer technologies were really mentioned. They're still side venting the building ultimately, which is something that really nobody wants. They're not, burning the stuff off. Instead, they're using electromagnetic technology, which arguably isn't the answer. We're lay people. We don't understand their technologies wholly. He apparently has some pretty good engineering background, but I sure as heck don't. So, we just don't feel that they're forthright. I don't feel that they're using the latest and greatest. Maybe it's a budget thing. I don't know. They certainly paid a lot for that farm, and now they're having to make decisions with it, with that in regard.
anybody else have any comments?
Yeah. When we heard today, they make promises that then they might keep for a little while, and then they just start fading away. But I'll tell you that these type of promises I shall not fade away by any means. No way to fade any promises away by any means.
I appreciate your comments.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
It's a sticky wicket.
I'll
All right.
just make one more
Go ahead,
comment,
Dave.
just kind of piggybacking on what Tony said. I work in the food industry, and we buy a lot of eggs, liquid and dry, and you're dead on. Everything that the market has to be cage-free. And I talked to our biggest supplier last week on it, and if you're not cage-free, you're going to be out of business. So that's just kind of just the point I'd make, is that they have to do this, and I kind of agree with what your strategy was saying is what they're trying to do. So
Kind of tell us they're doing us a favor by getting rid of it.
right, yeah, but I mean they have no choice. Otherwise, it's just they're going to be done.
Right.
I just want to make a point. I think you have had the ear of a lot of people. You certainly have the town board's ear. And last Tuesday night, you had the ear of our town planning commission chair, who is also our county board representative. Maybe you need to take it a step further and talk to your legislatures.
I emailed them both the other day. They haven't anteed up yet.
They're Republicans, they won't do anything.
I'm not saying any more. That's enough on this tonight. Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. We are citizens of the town of Lake Mills. E, an update on road and brushing projects. It's snowing.
Hey, we're saving money every day.
Yeah.
I did get a message back from Jason. He's gonna send me the rates tomorrow. He said he'd look at it tomorrow. And he will also fill the
I'll go get the
box.
garbage out of there.
Yeah,
Okay.
tomorrow.
Thanks for that. Let's see. I was wondering, since the weather had not gone completely south about a week ago, if I should start to look again at brushing projects and or some graveling. just love to do this things.
I think gravel at this time of the year would be a
A
no-no,
waste of time.
because you're just gonna blow it right back off.
Right.
But brushing, as long as there's not snowbanks,
Okay.
keep cutting them.
All right. I think we're coming along on our
Do
budget.
you want me to send that out to people? The
No,
roughly?
no.
That's just an
Good on
estimate
that,
for
yeah.
my file,
Yeah.
okay. And I also got the confirmation of what's sitting at Jefferson County. We already
Okay.
know about that for the highway aid.
All right. So I'm gonna work, probably, my next move will be to work with the City of Lake Mills Electric Department, go on another little ride. Pull together a list, okay? Depends on the weather.
Be careful, don't volunteer to nothing, they gotta keep it clean. Anyway.
All right. Okay, item 10, new business. A, discussion and decision on tax collector bond method. I appreciate you girls taking the bull by the horns there.
Well, so you guys read this probably, and it came up last month that we had to pay for this. There's a deadline. We had to do it last month, so we just decided on which method to go because the other one involved changing an ordinance and a lot of convoluted stuff. And when I did the math, our bond cost us it's not much more to do it the way that we did it
Okay,
than it did in years past. It's just a change in the state legislature that caused this.
all right, so
To
the
happen.
decision we need to make tonight is?
Is it okay to continue to do it this way, or do you want to pursue the ordinance method and the other option, I guess?
Is this math here, you're within $10, is that what I'm?
I don't remember. Honestly, I did this last month.
Okay.
It's, we paid $290 almost dollars for our.
Oh, $290, sorry, that's an 8.
$289.48 is what we paid for it this year. Which it used to be just a blanket rate. We had a $250,000 bond, it costs X amount, but now there's a calculation involved. So, under the calculation, it cost us, I'd have to pull it up to see what it was last year, but it wasn't much more. It's an increase, but it doesn't involve an ordinance. I apologize, I was gonna look back through this again today and I ran out of time, but
Well, for this year, we have to stay with
for
this,
this
right?
year, it's already done.
Yeah.
So it really is just a matter of, do you want to revisit it and be on top of it for next year? If so, we need to do an ordinance.
This says that if you, you either pay the bond or you assume all
Assume all
responsibility.
responsibility by ordinance, right?
Well, I just assume pay the bond.
I just didn't pay the bond.
Yeah. All right,
Especially with it
so
not being that much more.
I will motion to pay the bond.
Yeah, I will second it.
Okay.
Continue with this method until we
Yeah.
figure out something else.
Unless it gets really expensive, then we might want to change it.
All right.
But then again, what's the expense of taking full responsibility too, so.
Yeah, so we have a motion on the floor, and it has a second. Are we ready to vote? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion is passed. Item B, thank you again, both of you, for taking the time to make that happen so it was on time. B, discussion and decision on tax refunding policy for small amounts. Sharon, you better let us know about your frustration here.
Well, you know, if it's less than $5, people just don't ever cash the check. They're not,
Yeah.
they don't care. I had one who, we wrote a check for $2. I even wrote a letter and sent it to him and asking him to please cash it.
And they still didn't do it.
And still didn't. So
Yeah.
it's just frustrating to have those checks when,
Screws your books all up.
yeah.
So Sharon got a policy, an example from the town of Exonia, which we could use most of, but we don't have one, we don't take payments in person, and two, we don't have a petty cash amount, a drawer of any kind. So
Right.
we'd have to modify it a little bit.
We
but-
would have to cut a check, but we can modify it.
Yeah,
I would not want like a slush fund where
No.
you just take money. I
yeah.
don't want that at all.
Because then you gotta turn receipts in to get reimbursed your cash.
No,
fund.
no, no, but I think there certainly could be a policy for
Sure.
people who have small amounts that want to collect it to apply and
Yep.
be able to
Yeah,
do
Yep.
right, upon request and.
Yep, exactly.
So, this town of Ixonia refund policy needs to be reworked. It will simply be a policy, not an ordinance.
Okay.
Who's going to rework the paperwork?
Does she have this she's gotta have this in electronic format, right?
She might probably.
That she could email it? I can work it unless you wanna do it.
Well, if you want, you're better with that.
Let's find out.
But we need to make it a policy effective January 1st, or she's gonna be stuck with $5 refunds this
Right,
year,
yeah.
so.
Yep, and I've always questioned that. It just doesn't
No.
make sense.
So how are we gonna do that?
In fact, I think last year if I had somebody less than a dollar, I just put it in the town of Lake Mills general fund instead of,
Less than $1, yeah.
it just doesn't make sense.
So we're talking about refunds for under $5, correct?
Is that what you want to stay with?
Well,
Or do you want
what
to do
is the
it?
amount you think?
How much does it cost to write a check between, you guys'
I just
administration?
ordered
and-
checks and I got, geez, how many did I get now?
10 cents or something.
No, it's more than that.
Is it quarter?
I could spend, the bill was like almost $500 for 2 years worth of checks, so.
You got 900 checks.
Thank you.
And it was
Okay.
$550.40 for that.
So,
That's 50 cents.
Plus the postage.
Yeah, that's another 50 cents.
okay, so it's,
Is $5 too low? Should you go to $10?
I'm kind of thinking $10.
Yeah.
okay, that
What do
sounds
you
good.
think?
What?
$10?
Yeah. If somebody especially requests it, then we can issue it.
Yeah.
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 Right, yeah, exactly, because then they're serious about they're gonna take it and
Take it,
cash
cash?
I'll add this to the tax bill letters too next year
Okay,
and put something on the website this year.
all right.
So then we then probably need to make a motion to have a refund policy,
Yeah.
I'm assuming. I will make a motion for beginning as of January 1st, 2018, that there will be no tax refunds smaller than $10 unless requested by the recipient.
So what do I do with all, if any come in between now and January 1st?
Oh, okay.
Because I am collecting.
So
tax.
effective immediately then.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
And then I'll just type it up because it's a policy, so as long as we have one,
Yeah.
that's all we need, right? Okay.
That'd be fantastic, thank you.
Who seconded it, or did we get that far?
Nobody yet.
Okay.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
That's good sense.
I guess we had the discussion, I certainly appreciate it if you would get that put together for us, thank you.
Yeah, I can do
All
that.
in favor of the tax refunding policy as stated, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign.
I have a question for Nancy anyway, so I'll ask her that at the same time.
C, discussion and decision on appointment of election inspectors for 2018-19. A list appears here.
Oops, I guess I got Jennifer on there twice. Sorry. And this is just the core group as of now. I'll probably add on to it as the year goes on, but
Looks like a good group. Good representation. All in favor of the appointments that Sarah has put forward? Oh, wait, I'll motion to accept the appointments for election inspectors for 2018-19.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the appointments for election inspectors, please say aye. Aye, and all opposed, the same sign.
along the lines of elections, you can just take this home and take a look at it. That came from the Jefferson County clerk with, there's an equipment change and,
Oh,
some
geez.
expenses. We've already budgeted for this, but just some informational stuff.
Well, it was a nice break. I don't know if she really meant that.
Here we go, gearing up
All
again.
right, thank you. Item D, board expense sheet approval. Anybody got expenses? Item 11, correspondence.
Okay, we have a Merry Christmas from Scott Construction. We have
That felt good.
just the bulk of the annexation paperwork on the property off of Elm Street. What do you call it, physical therapy place? A
Like work.
education opportunity, become an effective public works leader. Some courses in 2018, and a consultant engineer newsletter that we get quarterly. That's it.
All right, thank you. Item 12, meeting schedule. January 2nd, 2018, the Planning Commission at 8 p.m. Also on January 2nd, the Joint Rock Lake Committee at 6 p.m. Next regular board meeting, January 9th at 8 p.m. I would motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting is adjourned.